Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the closing ceremony of the Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Law Moot. My name is Judy Mikely, and I work for the Department of Justice. Along with Anthony Navaneelan of Legal Aid Ontario, we are co-chairs of the Moot's organizing committee, and I will be your host this evening. Please be aware that simultaneous interpretation is available for this event. To begin our closing ceremonies, I wish to acknowledge the traditional territories on which we gather during this virtual event, including those of the Algonquin, Anishinaabe, Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Métis, Mississaugas of the Credit, Canadian, Kehaka, Prix, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, Etsek-Wampek peoples. As we gather virtually in locations across Turtle Island to discuss issues related to global migration, it is important to recognize and acknowledge the Indigenous peoples on whose land we are grateful to live and work. Now, I'd like to take a moment while we begin to thank everyone who made this moot possible. There were so many people who volunteered their time so very generously. To begin, Tony and I would like to thank the members of the organizing committee. From the Department of Justice, we have Hillary Adams, Chris Arujo, KCB, Nicola Shabazz, and Rachel Yaworski. From the private bar, Leah Cummings of Raymond Harris LLP and Argavan Jeremy of Jeremy Law PC. And from Legal Aid Ontario, Ben Liston and Cheryl Robinson. I'd also like to thank the multitudes of various committee members whose names can be found in your program. I'd also like to
Je voudrais aussi prendre un instant pour remercier
individuals who acted as judges, as well as the federal court clerks and articling students who acted as our volunteer registrars today. All of their names can also be found in your program. And finally, a big thank you to all the mooters and their coaches. We know how much hard work you put in to prepare for this moot, and it really showed. In addition, this moot would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, MTI Plus, the Canadian Association of Refugee Lawyers, the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association, the Department of Justice Canada, the Refugee Lawyers Association of Ontario, and the Delage Law Group. Thank you all. We are also very grateful to those who have donated book prizes for us. That includes the Federal Court, Mario Bellissimo, and Professors Guy Goodwin Gill, Hilary Evans Cameron, and Professor James Hathaway. Thank you for your ongoing support. We have a few things planned for you tonight. First, we will kick off the event with opening remarks from Chief Justice Crampton of the Federal Court. We will then hear our keynote speaker, Professor Hilary Evans Cameron. And following this, we will hand out the awards to our mooters. In between all of these events, we will have a guided cocktail and mocktail making session by renowned cocktail maker, lawyer, and lead committee member, KCB. Please note that before beginning the awards portion of the evening, we will have a 5-minute break. I'd now like to introduce Chief Justice Crampton, the Chief Justice of the Federal Court, to kick off the event. The Federal Court has been a key supporter of this moot since its inaugural year in 2020-2021. The court's judges and clerks generously donate their time, and the court donates prizes for awards recipients. Chief Justice Crampton was appointed to the Federal Court on November 26, 2009, and was appointed as Chief Justice of the Court on December 15, 2011. Prior to that, his career included being a partner in the Competition and Foreign Investment Law Group at Osler, Hoskin and Harcourt LLP in Toronto, and a partner in the Competition and Foreign Investment Law Group at Davies, Ward, Phillips and Weinberg LLP, as well as various other positions with the Competition Bureau. Over to you, Chief Justice.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Bonsoir à tous and good evening, everyone. J'aimerais tout d'abord remercier tous les participants au débat pour le travail impressionnant qu'ils ont accompli. D'après ce que j'ai entendu, la qualité des débats était très élevée. Good for you all for doing such a great job. Trust me, it will get easier as you get more time on your feet. Being on your feet is such an important part of the equation, and finding as much time as you can to get on your feet is going to be very, very important as you move through your career. Try to take whatever opportunities you can if you're going to be a litigator to get on your feet. That will simply hone your advocacy skills. It will give you more confidence. Confidence is such a key thing, and your instincts as well. Confidence helps you deal with the unexpected. I think the judges tried to give you a feel for what the unexpected can look like. Perhaps it might have been a bit exaggerated at times. That tends to happen during these moots, but hopefully you gained valuable insights all the same. I would be remiss if I didn't give special mention to Justice Diner, who was the visionary and driving force behind this moot. As the saying goes, build it and they will come. And while the great turnouts that we've seen in these past 3 years have vindicated that vision in spades, I understand that the number of participating law schools has continued to grow. Although we would obviously have preferred to have had an in-person moot, we are continuing to experience challenges in making that happen. But the silver lining is that a new generation of immigration litigators is getting in on the ground floor of this digital shift that we've been witnessing over the last 3 years. Virtual hearings became the default mode of hearing following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, now as we're emerging out of it, hopefully, we're seeing more of a shift back to a balance of in-person hearings and virtual hearings. For the first 6 months of this year, we will hear as many matters in person as we heard during the entire calendar 2022. So that trend, I expect, is going to continue as we open up and achieve that better balance between in-person and remote hearings. I put it that way because nobody wants to go back to the way things were before the pandemic. We want to preserve the benefits of the digital shift that was accelerated by the pandemic while maintaining an appropriate physical presence across the country. That was one of the important rationales underpinning the creation of the court over 50 years ago. And this is really important for young litigators like yourselves, who can learn so much more by being in a physical courtroom and interacting with other counsel on the margins of hearings and during breaks, et cetera, than you ever could in a virtual hearing. And we've noticed that. And we've actually heard some feedback on that front as well. So with those few remarks, I'll turn the floor back over to the organizers. Amusez-vous bien ce soir. Have a nice evening. Keep well.
Thank you, Chief Justice Crampton, for your remarks. We greatly appreciate the federal court's ongoing support of the moot. Next up, we have KCB, who will guide us through our first cocktail and mocktail making session. Very excited for this, Casey. Over to you.
Thanks, Judy. Hi, everyone. I'm at a funny angle on purpose here, so you can actually see what I'm doing. So my apologies for my slouching here, but this is probably I couldn't afford 2 cameras, so this is what we're going to have to do. So my name's KCB. I'm an employee at the Department of Justice. I work for the Global Affairs Canada LSU, which means I do a lot of interesting work with global affairs as part of my job. I got involved in the moot when I was a law clerk, and I was clerking at the federal court for Justice McVeigh, and that was a really wonderful experience for me. And I got involved in the moot that year and continue to be part of it since its inaugural year. In addition to being a lawyer, I also have a background in the restaurant world, and used to own a cocktail bar in Toronto called the Toronto Temperance Society. So during that horrible pandemic, when I was clerking for the court, my law clerks and I would virtually get together and make cocktails and do wine tastings and things like that, and it was always a lot of fun. So I decided to offer my experience up here at the moot for our little cocktail making session. So the first cocktail we're going to do tonight is going to be a Tommy's Margarita. I also gave the option for doing a Southside. And if you're not imbibing this evening, there's instructions on how to modify the margarita to a non-alcoholic cocktail. Let's jump right into it. This is tequila. This is an agave spirit. What that is a spirit made from the agave plant, which is indigenous to Mexico and really only grows well in Mexico. When choosing a tequila, the one thing you really want to look out for is that it says 100% agave on it. And if it says 100% agave on it, it's going to at least be a reasonable quality. There's three types of tequila that are generally drunk. There's the Bianco tequila, which is white or clear, I should say. The Reposado tequila, which is what we've got here, which is just slightly aged in oak barrels. And that's what gives it the color you can see, the golden color. And then you can also have Añejo, which is aged for over a year. And it's going to have a darker color and a bit of an oakier, more smooth taste. Tequila isn't the only agave spirit out there. There's also mezcal, sotol, and others. But of course, that goes a bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. So we'll just stick with the tequila. So Tommy's margarita is a simplified margarita. It doesn't have Cointreau like the classic margarita does. And it was a man named Tommy who owned a bar in the US who had to have a little bit of a lower sugar intake, invented this drink. And what it does is by taking out the Cointreau, it actually just simplifies the drink a bit so the tequila shines a little bit more and you can taste the tequila a little bit better. Not to say it's any stronger, it's just the tequila really comes out in the drink more than it would if you added the Cointreau. So we're going to take 2 ounces of this Reposado tequila. And I'm measuring this in my trusty measuring cup, 2 ounces into the shaker. Next, we're going to get some lime juice, and I'm using fresh limes. And again, the secret to a good cocktail is to be precise in your measurements. It's more like baking than like cooking. And so you really want to actually measure everything that you're putting into it so that you're getting the right balance of sweet, spirit forward, and tart. And I can see that I'm just under an ounce with this 1 lime. So I'm going to cut a second lime. And add just a touch more juice to my measuring cup. And it goes. Now I've asked you all to make agave syrup ahead of time, which is equal parts agave nectar and warm water, cooled down. The reason we water it down is because it mixes better with the cocktail if it's less viscous. It's strictly not necessary, but it makes working with it much, much, much easier. So we're going to add 1 ounce of agave syrup into the shaker. Now, the last one you might find a little bit strange. We're going to put a pinch of salt into the shaker. And a little bit of salt benefits many, many cocktails. It can balance out the tartness a little bit. It can just add a little bit more flavor. I know people are used to having salt on the rim of their glass, but in this case, we're just going to be dropping it right into the glass to add just a little bit of salinity and crispness to the flavor. And then finally, we're going to put some ice into the shaker, and you want a good amount of ice. You want enough that it can really, you can really feel it shaking and going. And the reason that you shake a drink is really actually to water it down at the same time as cooling it down. One thing people realize pretty quickly is that if you're using straight juice, straight spirit, and straight sugar, the drink is too syrupy, strong, and sour. And so you actually need some water in order to water it down. So, I mean, it is true that it cools it down as well, but you could have also just put the ingredients in the fridge for the cooling effect. So really what you're trying to do here is you're trying to make the drink a little bit cool, but also watery. And when you're shaking rather than stirring, you're also adding basically oxygen and bubbles into it to give it a bright mouthfeel. Okay. So once all the ingredients, including the ice, are in your shaker, and then you don't have to have a fancy shaker like mine. It could be a Nalgene bottle or anything sort of not glass that will break. Put the top on, and when you shake it, you really want to try to slam the ice and liquid from one side to the other to give it the maximum amount of shake it. You're not doing like a little bit, you know, anything like this. You're really what you want to shake it really until it's so cold that you can't hold on to it anymore if it's metal. That's really the rule. And to believe it or not, you're adding about an ounce of water to your drink. So you're putting sort of a third of water into it. And then we're going to pour the whole thing into our glass. If we were in a bar with a big ice machine, I'd probably put fresh ice in there, but because most of us are at home with limited freezer space, I'm just going to say dump it right in there. And then if you're so inclined, you can garnish that with a little lime wheel. Cheers, everyone.
All right, thank you, Casey, for helping us make that delicious beverage. Also, my absolute favorite kind of alcohol, so special place in my heart for that. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Justice Diner, the heart and soul of this moot, to introduce our keynote speaker. Justice Diner has been a key supporter of the moot since its inaugural year in 2020-2021. He has been our honorary chair for 2 years, and he is currently a judge of the federal court. Prior to his appointment, Justice Diner was a member of the Ontario and New York bars and was certified as a specialist in immigration law by the Law Society of Ontario in 2013. He headed the Canadian immigration practice at a large international law firm and also practiced in other areas of administrative law with 2 other leading firms in Toronto. Justice Diner continues to be involved with members of the community through his work as the former chair of the Federal Court's Liaison Committee with the Immigration and Refugee Bar, and as demonstrated by his ongoing involvement with this moot. Justice Diner, over to you.
Thanks very much for the kind introduction, Judy. And so I'm here to introduce our very, very esteemed keynote speaker tonight, who we have following in the footsteps of Professor Jim Hathaway in the first year of the moot, and then former Professor and Justice John Evans last year. So Hilary Evans Cameron, je vais parler dans les 2 langues, est une professeure adjointe au Lincoln Alexander School of Law de l'Université métropolitaine de Toronto. A former litigator, she represented refugee claimants for a decade, and she holds a doctorate in refugee law from the University of Toronto. Ses recherches portent principalement sur l'évaluation de la
The evaluation of the credibility in the context of refugee law.
And a book that's very celebrated about the law of fact-finding in refugee status decision-making, called Refugee Law's Fact-Finding Crisis, Truth, Risk, and the Wrong Mistake, published by Cambridge in 2018. So without further ado, thank you very much, Professor Evans Cameron, for being with us tonight and delivering our keynote address.
Thank you, Justice Diner. Merci. Congratulations first to both teams of finalists. You were brilliant. And to everyone who took part. Bravo à tous et à toutes. Franchement, c'était félicitations. And congratulations to the organizers for running such a fantastic event. And thank you so much for involving me. It is, of course, an immense honor to follow in the footsteps of Professor Hathaway and Justice Evans. I know that we're not supposed to call him Justice Evans anymore, but he will always be Justice Evans to me. And on that note, before I dig in, I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the great debt that I owe Justice Evans. Several years ago, I was on an email chain with him, And a few days later, I sent off a quick note to my mother forwarding something. Hey, OMG, check this out. Miss you, hugs. Except that my email auto-filled the address, and instead of sending it to Joan Evans, my mother, I sent it to Justice John Evans of the Federal Court of Appeal. So I got to write the follow-up email. Dear Justice Evans, please disregard the previous message. It was meant for my mom. His sweet response is the only reason I ever left my house again. So really, I owe him my life as I know it. I really enjoyed this year's moot scenario because I study the Refugee Board's decision-making, or more precisely, one aspect of its decision-making. For the last about 20 years, I've been very interested in how board members reach the conclusion that a claimant is lying. I've looked at this question from a number of angles, and I focus my attention this way on the rejection process specifically, because there is a basic asymmetry in refugee law as there is in the criminal law. You've probably all come across Blackstone's maxim, this idea that it is better that 10 guilty persons go free than that one innocent one be convicted. In a criminal trial, the error costs are not equal. One mistake is worse. The same is true in a refugee hearing. It is a mistake to give refugee protection to someone who doesn't need it. It is a worse mistake to deny that protection to someone who does. And wrongly denying protection by wrongly calling them a liar, I think, is an even worse mistake. So I study credibility rejections because I think that these kinds of decisions in particular should be subject to what the courts in the UK call anxious scrutiny. In my minutes today, I want to suggest that there is a basic systemic problem with how board members are reaching the conclusion that claimants are lying. I'll tell you what I think the problem is. I'll give you a taste of the evidence that's led me to this conclusion. And then I'll suggest that if you enter this field of law, there's something that you can do about this, whatever path you take, whether you work as a claimant lawyer for the Department of Justice in policy, as a board member. And on that last note, I will just flag that the Refugee Board is hiring. The problem with the board's credibility rejections is that they're not based on evidence. I often speak with board members at talks and trainings, and they say, of course our decisions are based on evidence. We consider reams of evidence in every case, and they do. But the reasoning process that they follow when they infer from that evidence that the claimant is lying, that reasoning process is not evidence-based. It is typically guided solely by the member's own common sense, and at times by the common sense of federal court judges. Throw her in the pond. If she floats, she's a witch. That's an evidence-based decision in the sense that it rests on an empirical observation of what happens to the accused when she hits the water. The problem is that the assumption that lets the decision maker draw a conclusion from that observation, that a person will float if and only if they're a witch, that assumption is not based on any evidence at all. And on the contrary, the best available evidence would suggest otherwise. Let me give you just one example from a recent study of mine of the kinds of common sense assumptions that often underlie the board's credibility reasoning and the body of evidence that challenges those assumptions. You may have noticed that recently the world has kind of gone to hell in a handcart. Pandemic, natural disasters, armed conflicts. This has been a wonderful time for researchers who study how people respond to dangerous situations. You can perhaps imagine how much grant money has been spent in recent years by researchers who are trying to understand better, for example, why people who are facing imminent, foreseeable, and potentially deadly threats, like floods, fires, hurricanes, attacks, invasions, why ordinary people in these situations choose not to leave their homes, why some fail to take any reasonable precautions at all. What cognitive mechanisms help to explain these kinds of risk response behaviors? In fact, even before the current multi-mess, risk response research has long been a mainstay in the field of cognitive psychology. Ironically, it really took off at around the time that the ink was drying on the Refugee Convention. Since the middle of the last century, a vast empirical literature on the study of human risk response has identified many cognitive factors that help to explain these observations. I will tell you about 3 of them in a couple of sentences each. Optimism. That human beings are unrealistically optimistic in the face of danger is, quote, one of the most robust findings in research on human cognition. This has been observed in over 1,000 studies across cultures, genders, education levels, age groups, and for all kinds of undesirable events, including lethal dangers. Familiarity and habituation. The more familiar a risk is, the less we worry about it. The more familiar a risk is, the easier it is to push it to the back of our minds. And with enough exposure, we can become habituated even to serious, deadly threats. They can simply become background noise. Risk response studies are full of examples of this kind of phenomenon. For example, nearly half of the subjects in one study who were living in a situation that they recognized was life-threatening reported using denial as a risk response strategy. We try to ignore the situation and go on living. We're used to it. Lastly, appeal. We also know from decades of studies that the more we want to take a risk, the safer or more manageable it will seem. And in particular, a large literature on place attachment has observed that the appeals of home often lead people to underestimate the risks of living in a dangerous situation or reduce their willingness to relocate. Okay. What role do these kinds of social scientific insights play in the Refugee Board's credibility rejections? I've just finished a study. It'll be coming out shortly in the International Journal of Refugee Law. I analyzed a sample of about 250 of the board's credibility rejections. I was interested in the conclusions that the members draw from the claimant's risk response. In most of these credibility rejections, over 60%, the member draws a negative conclusion from something that they observe about how the claimant responded to a risk. Typically, the fact that the claimant did not flee right away when the danger arose, didn't claim right away, or chose to return home. And the members conclude that these responses are just not how a person at risk would act. I wanted to see first if the members consider any evidence to inform their reasoning, and they don't. In no decision in the study does the member indicate that they're drawing on anything other than their own common sense. But I also looked to see if the members' reasons might nonetheless reflect some of the major insights in the literature. In other words, might they acknowledge the relevance of these kinds of cognitive factors, even if they're not persuaded that in this particular case they explain the claimant's conduct? So here I was looking for anything along the lines of, while I recognize that people are often optimistic, in this case, I'm not convinced. Right? Indeed, the claimants in these decisions routinely explained that they had held out hope. They didn't flee sooner because they hoped that the situation would improve. In rejecting this explanation, in not one decision does the member acknowledge that people may be unrealistically optimistic. Not one. Instead, the members routinely conclude that unrealistic optimism is simply implausible. People at risk are not unrealistically optimistic. The claimant surely would have known that there was no cause for hope. The claimants could not explain what allowed them to believe that the situation would improve. Just hoping that things will get better is not reasonable. Claimants in these situations, citizens of some of the most dangerous countries in the world, also described how they'd become habituated to living with an ever-present risk. They got used to it. They tried to live their lives. In not one decision does the member acknowledge that people may become habituated to a dangerous situation, that the familiarity of a risk may decrease a person's level of concern, that a person who knows that they face a serious danger might yet be able to push that thought to the back of their minds. Not one. Instead, we see the contrary assumption. A person who knows that they face a serious threat would leave the area where they're living as quickly as possible and would certainly not try to live their normal life. The claimants in these cases also routinely highlighted the most viscerally compelling reasons for taking the risk of staying home or returning home. The claimant did not flee sooner because she was attached to her roots, her culture, her parents. He had young children at home. She was caring for her younger siblings after their parents had fled. Many also explained that despite the danger, the decision to abandon their home was very difficult. The claimant declared that it was hard for him to change countries. The claimant did not want to flee because she had a good job, she had property, she had a good status in her country, she had a good income. Not only did none of these decisions acknowledge that the appeals of home may affect a person's risk response, not one even recognizes that the claimants in these cases were facing difficult choices. Instead, when a person's very life is at risk, the decision to flee is simple. Emotional connections to their children, spouses, parents, family, community are simply categorically irrelevant. In this study, I looked at 14 cognitive factors that affect risk response, factors that researchers have long identified, studied extensively, and that relate to explanations that the claimants themselves put forward. In 162 risk response decisions, there are 2 that each acknowledge one of these factors. In 160, there is no trace of any of the insights that decades of research have brought to our collective understanding of how human beings respond to dangerous situations. This is not evidence-based decision-making. Before I die, I would like the Refugee Board to include digests of social scientific evidence in its standard documentation packages. Board members receive hundreds of pages of evidence about country conditions and not one page of evidence about how people think and act. How can we ensure that these digests include the best available evidence? Good question. Let's form an interdisciplinary bipartisan committee to look into this, one comprised of claimants, DOJ lawyers, claimant lawyers, rather, DOJ lawyers, social scientists. How do we mitigate the risks of junk science? What about more controversial findings? Excellent question. Let's put that to the committee. Here's the thought I'd like to leave you with. I occasionally come across the idea that board members are experts at assessing credibility. I can't think where I would have read that. It'll come to me. For the record, they're not, and that's no slight on them. The lie detection literature makes amply clear that when it comes to assessing the credibility of strangers in real time, there are no experts, and doing it a lot doesn't make you good at it. Veteran police officers have accuracy rates just above a coin toss, just above chance. Despite my very human tendency to unrealistic optimism, I think it's too much to hope that members will ever make a high proportion of accurate credibility judgments. But there's no reason they can't make a high proportion of reasonable credibility judgments. They are, after all, on the whole, very good at their jobs. I have given many years to this anxious scrutiny gig. I've read many hundreds of Refugee Board rejections, and from what I see, they are overwhelmingly careful, thorough, thoughtful, clear, well-written. But the board's conclusions cannot be reasonable if the members' common sense is wildly out of step with the best available evidence. So we need to help the board to catch up to the revolutionary ideas of the 1950s and the 1970s and the 1980s, which is when most of these basic insights were firmly nailed down. I sincerely believe that this is a bipartisan issue. Not one of us has a legitimate interest in preserving the status quo. We should all be invested in ensuring that these decisions are evidence-based. So when you get out into the world, if my dream of social science digests in the board's document packages has not yet come to pass, then if you're working as claimant counsel, you need to be submitting this evidence. If you can't find the relevant articles, please email me. For that matter, if you find the articles and you can't get to them because
Envoyez-moi un email. Parce que
if you're working for the Department of Justice, then when you defend the board's credibility rejections, you have a crucial role to play in safeguarding the evidence-based decision-making process. You need to be quality testing the evidence the claimant counsel has submitted. Of course, the fact that evidence is peer-reviewed doesn't mean that it says what the claimant says it does. And the fact that it says what the claimant says it does doesn't mean that it supports the claimant's argument. If you're working at the board in policy and legal, I hope that you'll look for ways to bring this issue forward. And if you become a member and you want to learn more about this evidence, please email me. And on that note, in closing, I will just flag again that the Refugee Board is hiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Steiner, and thank you, Professor Evans-Cameron. And now we're going to return back to Casey for our second delicious beverage of the night. Casey, what do you have on tap for us for cocktail number 2?
Thanks, Judy. And Professor Cameron, that was amazingly interesting. And I think you've given us a lot to think about. So thank you. That was great. So for our second cocktail this evening, we're going to be making another tequila cocktail. And we sort of did that on purpose so that you wouldn't have to buy 2 bottles of spirits. And we're going to be making what's usually called the Oaxaca Old Fashioned or a tequila Old Fashioned. And I'll talk to you a little bit about old fashions in general, and then about this old fashioned in particular. If you are making the spirit-free cocktail, which I'm afraid we don't have time to highlight alongside, just you're going to be making it according to the instructions, but using the first methods, the shaking method instead of the stirring method this time. So old fashioned was most likely the very first cocktail that was ever invented. Cocktails were really invented to make poorly made alcohol taste good. So, you know, in the 1830s, when who knows what's in your spirit, you're just getting it from a brown jug with 3 X's on it. They unsurprisingly didn't have extremely good quality. And so people would do things to it in order to make it taste better. And so an old fashioned, as I'm sure many of you know, is usually whiskey, sometimes rye, bitters and sugar. And then, you know, you throw an orange peel in there. And what you're really doing in that case is you're making the harsh, strong whiskey a little bit more palatable. Now we've moved way past whiskey with the juice from a tobacco spittle jug on the floor of the pub, which is a real thing they used to do to give color to bad whiskey. And we now have good quality spirits that taste great on their own. But what an old fashioned does is it just adds a little bit of sugar and a little bit of bitterness to the spirit in order to bring out all of the subtle flavors. And so if I ever want to try a new whiskey and really understand what it's going to taste like, I'll often make an old fashioned with it, because you don't dampen the flavor of the whiskey itself, but you're making it a little bit easier to drink. Now, an old fashioned can be made with any kind of spirit. You just do a few swapsies in order to complement the flavors of that particular spirit. So in this case, we're changing sugar to agave syrup, because agave syrup is made from the same things that the tequila is made from. So naturally, they're going to go together quite well. And we're doing a grapefruit zest instead of an orange zest, because I find that the grapefruit really brings out the sort of brightness of the tequila. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our bitters. Now I'm using a cardamom bitter here, but just because I had it laying around the house and I thought it would be really good with the tequila. But you may have bought the Angostura bitters I suggested, which will taste great too. Or you might have decided on another one. A favorite with tequila old fashions or Oaxaca old fashions is actually chocolate bitters. And we're going to put a couple of dashes in there. Now, when some people try to put bitters and they're putting a drop in here, a drop in there. It's not a drop you're putting in a dash. And to put a proper dash into your glass, you want to turn the bottle completely upside down and then shake it as many times as dashes. So we're going to put in 2 dashes. You can do 2 to 3 dashes of bitter. So bottle goes in 1, 2, 3, just like that. Okay, we're then going to put in 2 ounces of our tequila. And if you did choose a different spirit, because not everyone does love tequila, it's the exact same recipe into the glass. And with old fashions, I do find that the aged spirits work a bit better than the unaged spirits. That margarita would have tasted great with an unaged tequila, but I asked you to buy a bottle of aged stuff because I knew it would work well with both drinks. And finally, we're going to put in 1/4 ounce of the agave syrup. So really not much. If you didn't water down the agave, then it would just be a bar spoon worth, very little amount. And it's the reason that we're using so much less than in the margarita is because we don't have citrus juice that we're going up against. We're not trying to balance any tartness. We're just putting a touch of sweetness to mellow out the strong spirit flavor. So that's it for now. And then we're going to put in our ice. All right, just using my hands here. I don't have tongs, but it's just me drinking it, so that's okay. And then if you don't have a fancy stirring spoon like I do, it's fine to just use a chopstick. So as you can see, like the amount of liquid's quite low compared to the amount of ice, but as we stir it, we're going to do a nice smooth stir. We're not trying to rock the boat. We're just trying to basically melt the ice. And as you can see, the total amount of liquid is getting significantly higher the more I stir it. And again, we're trying to add about 1 ounce worth of water to our drink. And sort of the general rule is if you're counting, you stir about as many times as the percentage of the base spirit. So this is a 40% tequila, so we're going to stir around 40 times. And then finally, the citrus. Now, I hope you did buy a grapefruit. If you didn't, you can use a lemon, a lime, or an orange. But whatever you do, don't skip this step if you have citrus laying around. And what you want to do is you want to get a nice big piece of peel with hopefully as little pith on the outside as possible. If you're using a knife, it's a little tougher, which is why I suggested a vegetable peeler. And what you're really going to do then is you're going to take, this is now the outside of the rind, and you're going to hold it like this, and you're going to fold it in half over the glass. And what that does is it expresses the oils over the top of the drink. You're going to just touch the edge of the glass a little bit to get the oils on the glass. So when you bring it up to your nose to try it, it's going to have this beautiful grapefruit flavor. So just so for the close-up, you hold it like this, and then you fold it in half, and that shoots the oils out over the top of the glass. Then you can just drop that right in there, and you've got your Oaxaca Old Fashioned. Cheers.
Thank you, Casey. Wow, I did not know that about the twisting. Now I understand. I always thought that was just to look cool, but it actually does something amazing. All right, now everyone, why don't you take some time and enjoy your drinks. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to announce the awards. Mooters, feel free to go get your parents, your friends, your roommates, your dogs, everyone around you to join in. We will be back in 5 minutes. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your patience. We're actually going to take an additional 10 minutes right now. Apparently, people need a little more time to drink their cocktails, but we would like you to just hang tight for another 10 minutes. We're going to come back and start the awards at 7:30. Thanks so much for your patience. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Hope you had some time to enjoy your cocktails and mocktails. And we are now at the part that everyone's been anxiously waiting for, the awards. We're going to begin the awards portion of the evening. Each award will be presented by one of our very generous sponsors. First up, we have Samuel Plett of the Delage Law Group Professional Corporation, and he's here to present the Top Factum Award. Take it away, Samuel.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone. My name is Sam Plett, and I'm the head of the litigation team at Delage Law Group. I'm appearing here on behalf of Chantal Delage, our senior partner, who could not be here this evening. And Chantal has been very involved with the Moot and has been deeply committed to mentoring young lawyers. And I'm really here today as a product of that commitment. And that's why our firm is committed to sponsoring this Moot, to see young lawyers have a chance to take on challenges, but also to meet future mentors. And I was very fortunate to be given opportunities to dive in over my head and take on challenging cases, but always with the support and mentorship, not only of Chantal, but many of other lawyers in the immigration bar. And I want to encourage you to keep reaching out, not only to the people that you have met here during this Moot, but also to others that you come across. I think you'll find that the immigration bar is a wonderful, supportive community, and hopefully this Moot showed you a little glimpse of that. So once again, from our firm, congratulations to everyone. I know you worked hard, and certainly that showed in your performances. So as was mentioned, tonight I am presenting the award for Top Factum. And this is awarded to the law school who received the highest combined scores from judges for their appellant and respondent facta. And the winners of the prize will be receiving 4 books on immigration and refugee matters. So hopefully as a team, you are good at sharing, or else you are very quick at grabbing the book that you want. And these books are We the Others, Allophones, Immigrants, and Belonging in Canada, Maximum Canada, Toward a Country of 100 Million. Third book is Refugee Sandwich, Stories of Exile and Asylum. And finally, Immigration Canada, Evolving Realities and Emerging Challenges in a Post-National World, all of which were donated by the Moot. So first I'm going to be announcing the runner-up, and then I will announce the award winner. And we will then ask the winning team to turn on their cameras to receive what unfortunately will likely only be a virtual round of applause. Perhaps Judy and I can applaud audibly on mic, but everyone will be applauding. So you can turn on your cameras when the winner is announced to receive our congratulations. So the runner-up team for the Top Factum Award is, and I feel like there should be a drum roll, but we don't have that here, Thompson Rivers University. So congratulations to you for being runners-up. And very happy to announce the winner is the University of Toronto. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name. You can turn on your mic and mispronounce my name if that makes you feel better. Fatima Amir, Ikram Handullah, Shay McPherson, and Darren Tyndale. So congratulations. And please, everyone, give them a round of applause, even if they cannot hear you. And congratulations to the winners, to all of the Mooters and their coaches. So we'll ask you to turn on your cameras now, if you're able to do that. And congratulations to you.
Sorry to interrupt, Samuel. If the winners could please raise their hand, if they wouldn't mind, in the chat function, I can promote them to panelists and then we could show them on video. Sorry, Zoom webinars take a little extra step. Thank you.
The joys of digital awards ceremonies.
Hello. I think I'm going to be the sole representative of Team U of T tonight. Our respondents did make it to the semifinals and are taking some well-deserved rest, but everyone is very excited, and I have them all on a group chat, and we're all very grateful. Thank you so much.
Oh, congratulations.
Darren, may I
Yes.
just ask, is your father David Tyndale?
Well spotted. Yes, yes. The U of T competitive moot process is like a ranking system. So you kind of audition, so to speak, for all the routes together, all the moots together. And I can't say, like, as I was so happy to participate, but I promise there was no nefarious intent on my part. I auditioned for all the moots, but I guess it's in my blood. I don't know what to say.
Amazing. On a personal note, your dad was my mentor at DOJ. So there you go. Full circle.
All right.
Congratulations.
I hope you don't have any, horror stories. Well, yeah, thank you so much again on behalf of the team. I mean, we, like everyone else who participated, put in a lot of work, so it's wonderful to be recognized, and we had so much fun and some very worthy opponents. So yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Darren. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Samuel. We really appreciate you joining us. Next up, we have Lanny Goslin from the Refugee Lawyers Association of Ontario to present the top oralist team. Over to you, Lanny.
Thank you, Judy. I'm Lani Goslin. I'm here on behalf of the Refugee Lawyers Association of Ontario. We're an association of lawyers representing refugees. We engage in submissions and consultations on policy issues with both federal and provincial government, courts, tribunals, and any agencies relating to immigration and refugee law. Our listserv membership includes lawyers and law students across Canada. And the RLA is very proud to sponsor the Moot that helps students hone their legal research and oral skills. And tonight, I'm presenting the award for the top oralist team. It is awarded to the law school whose appellant and respondent mooters received the highest average combined scores from judges in the 3 preliminary rounds of the Moot. The winners of the prize will be receiving copies of the Federal Court of Appeal and the Federal Court, 50 Years of History, donated by the Federal Court and the Refugee in International Law by Professor Guy Goodwill Gill. First, I'll announce the runner-up, and then I will announce the award winner. And I will also ask the winning team to turn on their cameras. The runner-up for the top oralist team award is University of Windsor. And I'm very happy to announce that the winner is Osgood Hall team, comprised of Jackson Andrews, Zohal Nasseri, Aidan Ryan, Jagdeep Hare, and Cindy Abreu. If you want to turn on your cameras, and everyone, please give them a virtual round of applause. Congratulations to all the winners and all the mooters and all of their coaches.
Thank you, Lanny. Let's just give a minute to the mooters to raise their hand, their virtual hand, and then our Zoom Moot registrar can start to spotlight the people.
Just promoting. I have asked for them to be promoted. Oh, they've declined to be promoted.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fine as well. All right.
Too excited.
Maybe they had a little too much of those cocktails.
Probably.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lanny. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you joining us this evening. Next up, we have Nicholas Hirsch from the Canadian Association of Refugee Lawyers, and he's here to present the Top Oralist Mooter Award. Nicholas.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm appearing on behalf of CARL, the Canadian Association of Refugee Lawyers. We were founded in 2011, and we serve as an informed national voice on refugee law and human rights of refugees and forced migrants. And we promote just and consistent practices in the treatment of refugees throughout the country. For me, this is a real privilege to be here tonight. I think refugee law is a deeply challenging yet endlessly fascinating and gratifying area of law to practice. So seeing all of these students here work so hard for many weeks and months just for this moment in time, it's really impressive, and it makes me believe the future is bright for future refugee advocates. I have the pleasure of presenting the award for Top Oralist Mooter. It is awarded to the mooter with the highest average combined scores from judges in the day one preliminary rounds. The winner of the prize will be receiving a copy of the Law of Refugee Status, which is absolutely foundational text for anyone in this area of law, and is donated by the author, Professor James Hathaway. Now, normally I would announce the runner-up first and then the award winner, but in fact, this year we have a tie with two mooters receiving identical average scores combined across the preliminary rounds. So I am very happy to announce that the joint winners for Top Oralist Mooters are Robin Ketchison from Queen's University and Tovely Schumand from U Alberta. So if everyone can join me in giving them a virtual round of applause. Congratulations to both of our winners, as well as all the mooters and coaches. So I'll just give a few seconds for them to come online if they are there.
And if you'd like to raise your virtual hand, our Zoom registrar can spotlight you so we can give you some congratulations if Robin or Tovely are on the Zoom.
Hi, yeah, Tovely. Thank you so much. I didn't expect this, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Is Robin there as well? All right. Well, congratulations, Tovely, and we wish you well and hope that you keep on litigating.
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, am I in the, okay, perfect. So unfortunately, Robin couldn't be here with us tonight, but I'm sure she will be ecstatic once I tell her that she got Top Oralist. I'm sure she's going to be very gracious too. Yeah, so I just came on to let you guys know that. Thank you very much for considering her. She did definitely work very hard. Obviously, being her teammate, I got to see that firsthand. So you guys definitely, she does definitely deserve this.
Thanks so much, James. Thank you for joining us. All right, and thank you, Nicholas, for joining us this evening. All right, next up, we have another Nicholas. We have Nicholas Simard-Lafontaine from the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association, and he is here to present the Top Law School Award. Over to you, Nicholas.
Yes, thank you so much, Judy. Bonsoir à tous. Félicitations à tous les participants. Merci aux juges. Je m'appelle Nicolas Simard-Lafontaine. Je suis avocat et je pratique en droit de l'immigration. Je suis aussi coprésident de l'Association canadienne des avocats en immigration. Je suis aussi là pour parler un peu en français ce soir. I'm also here to speak a bit of French tonight. So I was saying good evening. First, big congratulations to all the participants. I'm Nicolas Simard-Lafontaine. I'm a lawyer. I practice in the field of immigration, and I'm the co-president of the Canadian Immigration Lawyer Association. We say CILA. So it's the second year that CILA sponsors the Moot. Since the Moot is aligned with our mission to promote quality representation and to provide concrete resources for future lawyers, and new members of the immigration bar. CILA is a relatively new immigration lawyers association. Carl was 2011, we're 2020. So we grew our membership to approximately 500 members since 2020. Our membership includes lawyers, it includes members of the academic community, and it includes students. CILA is active in the public discourse. We appear before Senate and chamber committees, and we provide tons of valuable resources to our members. The resources we offer include hands-on workshops on multiple topics, and they're delivered by senior members of the bar. They might be very interesting for students, and we also offer very interesting volunteering possibilities for students as well. The best part is that CILA offers free memberships for students. So I hope that participants to the Moot will join us at CILA. It's at no cost. So tonight I'm here to present a big award. It's the Top Law School Award. So this award is awarded to the law school with the highest combined score from judges based on their appellant and respondent facta and their day one preliminary rounds. The winner of the prize will be receiving a copy of Refugee Law's Fact-Finding Crisis, Truth, Risk, and the Wrong Mistake, donated by keynote speaker and judge of the final round, Professor Hilary Evans Cameron. So, as in the previous announcement, I'll announce the runner-up and then I'll announce the award winner. So the runner-up for the Top Law School, the award is to the University of Windsor.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I'm happy to announce that the winner is University of Toronto, comprised of Fatima Amir, Ikram Handuli, Shay McPherson, and Darren Tyndale. Congratulations. So please obviously give them a round of applause, a virtual round of applause. And again, if you're able to turn on your camera to receive the round of applause, please do so. Obviously, congratulations to all Mooters and thanks to all participants.
Thank you, Nicholas. Congratulations to University of Toronto. There we go. We have a couple faces
Wonderful.
there. It's wonderful to see you both. Congratulations. Big award, big night. Great job, you guys.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you very much on behalf of U of T. We really appreciate this award. So thank you both.
Wonderful. Have a great evening.
Thank you. And I should mention, I forgot to thank our coaches earlier, but
yes.
Yes, please
much
give them
love.
a plug.
Big
The
part.
coaches work hard.
Yes, a huge thank you to our coaches. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mooters. Thank you, Nicholas. And now for the final award of the night, we have Shefali Tana from McCarthy Tetro, MTI Plus, to present the Champion Group Award. Over to you, Shefali.
Thank you, Judy. Oh no. Okay, can everyone see me okay? We did test this, I promise.
All good.
Thank you so much, Judy. Congratulations to everybody for reaching the end and for all the hard work that you've done over the past few months to getting to this point. So my name is Shefali, and I'm representing MTI Plus, the division of McCarthy Tetro. We are a corporate immigration law firm that provides Canadian and US immigration counsel to clients. And I have to say that I am graced with the honor of presenting today, but I'm really here on behalf of Stefan Duval, the head of our practice group. And we are so very happy to be sponsoring this moot again. I am still junior enough in my career that I remember mooting myself, and it was probably one of the highlights of my law school experience. So I hope, despite all the work that went into it, everybody upon reflection is able to really appreciate how much they've grown and how much they've developed compared to when they've started. So as mentioned, I am presenting the last award of the night, and that is the award for the champion group. And this award is awarded to the group from the final round who received the highest scores from the judges. The winners of the prize will be receiving a copy of Canadian Citizenship and Immigration and Admissibility Law, donated by Mario Bellissimo. And this year we had 2 excellent schools advance to the final round. The results were very close. I won't draw this out too long. But the runner-up of the Champion Group Award is the respondent group from Queen's University. And I'll pause for a second and apologize for any mispronunciations. But the group is Zara Karour and Levon Muradian. And that means that I'm very happy to announce that the winners are the appellant group from Thompson Rivers University, comprised of Kimia Shiri and Salman Abbasi. So congratulations to everyone. Please give them a big round of applause. And if they want to put their hands up, they can be spotlighted. And we can take a moment to.
Thank you, Shefali. I see one person there.
Thank you.
There's Salman. Amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
We're
much.
very glad to be receiving this award on behalf of TRU.
Very exciting. Salman, I understand that you are in a different time zone.
Yes, I am. A good 12-hour difference, actually, but it was worth it.
Congratulations, you guys. Great job. Great job.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to congratulate your coach at all?
Oh, definitely. Our coaches, David and Aaron, were just amazing. They gave the best feedback, the best comments, the best critique, always pushing us to do more. And then after each of our rounds that we finished, they would send helpful little emails being like, speechless, great job, amazing work. So just amazing. Thank you so much.
That's
Wonderful.
great. Congratulations to everybody.
Congratulations to everyone. And thank you, Shefali. All right. Well, thank you to all of our sponsors, the Canadian Association of Refugee Lawyers, the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association, the Department of Justice Canada, the Delage Law Group, McCarthy Tetro, MTI Plus, and the Refugee Lawyers Association of Ontario. Thank you again to all those who donated prizes for our winners, the Federal Court, Mario Bellissimo, Professors Guy Goodwin-Gill, Hilary Evans-Cameron, and James Hathaway. Congratulations to all the Mooters. We know how hard you have worked over this past year, many months, and it really shows. Thank you to everybody who has joined us this evening. And this now concludes the 2023 Immigration and Refugee Law Moot. We hope that you will all be back to join us again next year for the 2024 Moot. Good night, everyone.